Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this week's Bet on Black Pitch. My name is Tawana Rivers. I am the CEO of the 10K Project, and we have another set of amazing founders joining us this week. Actually, I should say rejoining us. We have the amazing gentlemen from Piggyback Network joining us again this year for their second capital raise. So welcome, Ish and Donald. Super excited to have you join us again. I'm so grateful that you thought we were added value to your previous campaign, that you wanted to come back and share everything that you're doing with us from a Piggyback Network standpoint. I'm going to start sharing my screen and pull up the campaign page. So for anyone that's new to the 10K Project, we share the campaign link with you in the chat throughout the evening, so you don't have to worry about trying to locate it. We're also going to pull up the page so that we can show you where you find the invest button if you decide to invest, and kind of just go over some basic details. So the one thing I like to always talk about is the fact that all of the founders put a lot of time and energy into building their campaign page. The intent is so that you can have all of your answers answered by looking through all of the information they've provided. So with that said, part of your due diligence process is to look through the entire campaign page so that you can be better educated on the entire project. This campaign is in its family and friends round right now. So we are family and friends to Donald and Ish. And so the campaign will go live to the public in 14 days. The minimum investment is $100. And you can see the investment terms here. It's a $10 million valuation. This is a future equity deal. There are early bird bonuses as well as investor perks included as well. And as I stated, please look through all of the information. You can see information about the team. You can see information about the project itself through the pitch deck that's included here. But we're going to turn it over to the gentlemen so that they can tell us in their words all about Piggyback Network. The floor is yours, guys.
Thank you. So I will go ahead and share. And while this is loading up, we had a brief introduction the last time, and I wanted to just share with Tawana and all of the 10K audience. Before we realized that you guys were doing this is exactly what we wanted to be able to do. We wanted to be in the position of creating a company that was scalable, that was something that was going to go coast to coast and even global at some point, and have the potential of really being a huge venture. But we wanted to make sure we provided equity opportunities for people that don't typically get that knock. The two of us, Donald and I, met in Princeton University. We are adjacent to people that come from generations of knowledge in the startup game. Some people that got really early opportunities to buy in and see their wealth multiply. And that was the dinner discussion in some of those families. We were first generation learning how to navigate these streets. And we want to be able to educate as many people as possible to what goes on and the potential to evaluate companies, get in early, the seed rounds, how money is multiplied when you go from seed to Series A to Series B, how to follow the exits, how to know, what to look for. And we found exactly the audience we were looking for in the 10K Project the last time around. So thank you all for that. And we're happy to be back, happy to be sharing our updates. We're a year smarter now. Definitely been around the block and learned some things, had a couple of accelerators, been able to speak to fellow founders, fellow venture capitalists. We know some of the things we don't want to get involved with. We know some of the things we do want to get involved with. And we really feel like we're ready to push this thing forward to the next level. So thank you for that. Thank you, Tawana, and we'll continue thanking you guys as we go throughout the night. Also, your questions last year. We stayed on this call for about 90 minutes last year and took a lot of the comments, questions to heart, and they've shaped our new presentation and our new pitch. So thank you all for that. All right, with that, my name is Ismail Al-Amin. I go by Ish. We're leading us through the Piggyback Network deck tonight. We subtitle it, What the Family Carpool Experience Should Be. All right, quick outline of what we'll walk through tonight. Why us as founders, why we are, the ones that can bring you the solution, why to trust us. The problem, how is Piggyback different? the competitive landscape, who's out there that's doing what we're doing and why we're better than them, the dollars and cents of it, it's the revenue model that most people want to know about, and then ultimately our plan for exit. All right. So Donald and I, we are both from the Chicago area. I'm from the city of Chicago. He's from just outside in the suburbs. And we ran into each other at Princeton University freshman year, both electrical engineering majors, both football players, took to each other really close. Eventually after school, we both got into software engineering, architecture, working for, corporate top 10, top 5 companies, and just kind of consulting and soaking up a lot of what was out there as far as solving other people's problems. Along the way, we had some children of our own. Donald had 3 at the time, I had 2 at the time, and we started putting our heads together and saying, we're seeing a lot of people that went to law school that are now starting their own law firms. We're seeing a lot of doctors that went to med school that are starting their private practices. We've seen a lot of people that have gone the W-2 route. Now they become consultants or starting their own firms. What if we started a company? So it literally started with that what if. We had the idea to become entrepreneurs, but we had no idea what we wanted to push. So while we're trying to coordinate calls, while he's in Austin, Texas, I'm in Chicago, our schedules, it was really difficult to line something up because we kept taking our children places. We kept running into, oh, I got to take the girls to ballet. I got to take the boys to baseball. I would, but I'm on the road right now. I can't talk right now. So kind of as a joke, I thought, what if we had a service that could do the driving for us so that we could actually sit down and start a business? So in a way, trying to carve out time to start a business became the idea to start this business. We've got no founding experience, but we have parenting experience, we have solutioning experience, and we have a great network, which we've been taking advantage of since we started this trek about 5 years ago conceptually, and we've been launched a little over 15 months now. All right. Our team. So since we are doing this our way, we are very proud to have partnered with and hired contractors from all over the world, really. Venezuela. We've got some people out of New York. We've got some people out of Chicago, our marketing team. We're really being able to take our dollars that we've earned from our first crowdfund and also from some investment from venture capitalists and put them in communities, in the small businesses, in the parents that we see doing the thing out there and trying to, run their entrepreneur lives, side gigs a lot of times. And we're proud to have put our money where their services are. All right. So we really like to show off this slide just to say, look, we're committed to the communities that are supporting us. So the problem. A lot of us drive our kids to school. A lot of us are doing it with tunnel vision. When I'm driving my daughter to school, my oldest daughter, she matched with a selective enrollment school here in Chicago. That school is 17 miles away from our home. My wife and I looked at that distance, saw that it was going to take 57 minutes of driving to get her to school. My wife said, what are we going to do when that child starts in kindergarten and doesn't get out until 8th grade? And I said, we're just going to suck it up and do it. With that commitment, I'm not alone. 58% of US parents are driving or either putting their children on school buses on a daily basis. It's 42 million families. That's the audience that we can potentially impact with the solution of community-based carpooling. Anyone that has to deal with driving their child or getting on that school bus where it's too far to drive, too far for a walk or a bike, they need to get in the vehicle. And also cities with bad climates. We're dealing with time commitments, missed opportunities, and certainly increased stress. So our solution, Piggyback, is matching families where your routes overlap. My drive to drop my child off, the last 40 minutes of the ride, I'm riding side by side on the highway with another parent that goes to the school. Our children are in the back seat waving at each other and making faces for the last part of the ride. And both of us parents are sitting there driving. And I'm like, why are we both doing this? Why are we both out here spending gas, maintenance on the car? My brakes just went out again today. I'm not happy about this. The maintenance, the gas, the flipping over cars. Some people buy a second car just to be able to handle their transportation for their child. Some people buy a house to move closer to the school so they won't have to worry about the transportation. We know the market is out there for this. So we match members that put in their profile, the routes that they have to drive on a regular basis. This is daily, weekly. If it's practice, if it's a sports season, put in where you need to go. And we're going to match the members that overlap. We're going to let you know, hey, Jackson family, you guys match with the Jones family. You guys should meet. You guys should meet in person. And if they meet in person and they like each other, they go through a set of questions. What are your values? What type of music do you listen to? How do you handle a child that missed a nap? How do you handle a child that needs to eat later in the day? Are you a talkative person? Do you prefer quiet? You go through anything as if you were trying to screen a caregiver, a nanny, somebody to come in and do tutoring, anybody that's going to be in your child's life, give them a screening. We can't set those questions, but every family knows their child. Every parent that drives knows their tolerance. So we want them to be comfortable with each other in that aspect. If they match, if both sides agree, they come back to the platform and they start scheduling the rides where one family is going to drive on one day, another family is going to drive on the other day, or they could potentially put all the rides on one driver, and the side that's doing the request would be the paying side, and the side that's doing the driving would be receiving the credits. So why it works, got a few bullet points, and throughout the presentation, you'll hear me talk about Piggyback is sort of like a single Lego block. And what a lot of parents do with it is they build the Lego structure that fits them. So some of the really simple, basic tenets of it are safe and convenient. The alternatives out there right now, you may have convenience, but that ride that's going to come when you call that mobile app, you have no idea the driver behind it. You don't know what kind of day they've had. They don't know your child. There's no trust there other than the fact that they're on this app. It's going to tell you, hey, there's a red car coming around the corner in 3 minutes, but you don't know who that driver is. That driver does not know you. They're not necessarily going to catch you and have a familiarity smile. They don't know the car seat that got to go in there with your child. We're safe and convenient because our drivers are parents themselves who have met you. Reliable and flexible. Not everybody has the daily routine every week. Not everybody is going to the same location every day. Seasons start and seasons end. When you do a contract with some of these driving companies, they're going to want you to pay by the month, whether you're going to use them every day of that month or not. We're only charging by the ride. So if you're not using that ride, if you change your scene during COVID, a lot of parents went from driving to work to working from home. A lot of parents have relocated. A lot of kids, students have changed schools. We fit the flexible schedule. We fit real life situations. We're also setting it so that it's very affordable and available in every zip code nationwide. There are no boundaries. We're not only going for affluent neighborhoods. We're not only going where the school distances are this far from each house. Wherever a parent drives in the United States, any route A to B, we can set that parent up to be a piggyback driver if they've enrolled with us. Some of the sustainable competitive advantages. So when we talk sustainability, at the beginning of every school year, it's on every parent's mind. Who can I find to try to link up and make this commute easier? And cycle after cycle, we see the Facebook posts, we see other private chats. Is anybody driving from here to here? Does anybody go to this sports camp after school? Is anybody thinking of doing this tutoring program? We need a ride. I can't make it to the school in time to pick up my son or daughter. The sustainability factor, once someone signed up in Piggyback, chances are that next school year or that next semester or that next sporting event, the parent you were partnered with is going to be right back there with you, and you all will be able to find each other again. You don't have to do the search every year. You don't have to reset and start from zero, learn another network set, because we've got this target market that's flipping itself every year. The access to the customers, Piggyback is empowering the parents to be the network. Right now, schools might do a job of getting a spreadsheet, let us know who's interested in carpool. The school owns that, and it's only going to go as big as the school is going to take it. By putting it in the parents' hands, we're giving them access to empower them to make this as big as it can be. There's no roadblock between parent groups getting together, no red tape, no bureaucracy, no school saying, we don't sanction it because we're not getting paid. This is the parents taking advantage of the platform and actually making it as powerful as they want to make it. The limitations of our competitors, we know for a fact, we've spoken with a lot of the ex-people or current employees at some of the larger rideshare companies. They don't want to touch youth transportation. Their models work for adults. They've tried it. that it didn't work, because it's not consistent, because they can't make sure every driver in the neighborhood has access to the same car seats and all of these different restrictions that go with driving children. They can't make all of their drivers youth compatible, so they've just not touched it because it's not profitable. That's our niche. That's exactly what we want to go after. Every family, top to bottom, high income to low income, making sure everyone's got access to the same transportation, sort of even out the playing field. Get the question a lot: what happens if somebody wants to replicate what you're doing? Great, you're making the world a better place if you replicate what we're doing. We are starting from the bottom up. We just got off a call with the buddy earlier, and he introduced this book, 0 to 1. When you're doing something from the very beginning, start off with a lot of people scratching their heads saying, man, that's going to be difficult. There's a lot that goes into that. You gotta consider a lot of things. And I think we've kind of crossed that mountaintop and are kind of coming down the other side, where people have gone from scratching their heads to, oh, I get it now. Oh, that could work. Well, how can I help? Because now we've reached out to a lot of retail partners. We've reached out to, or they've actually reached out to us, government agencies that are seeing the benefits of carpooling at a city level, at a state level, at a national level, some of the benefits of the environment impact that carpooling can have. We're hopefully going to land a pretty major accelerator in the Houston area that's sponsored by Chevron Gasoline, because there's a large impact on getting cars off the road. Everybody right now is in gimme, gimme, gimme state, and everyone wants their own autonomy and own a car and drive the car from here to there. And retail is in our mind. We got to go buy this. We got to go buy that. But we're looking at something as essential as getting our children to school and after school activities, and saying we can make this necessity in a better experience for everybody. So if someone's willing to go out there and replicate what we're doing and tie all of these aspects of life, from private money to government to public school to after school, sports, enrichment activity, tutoring, bring all these things together, bring neighborhoods together, bring parents together, and make it easier on parents' pockets, then we can all do this together. There's room for everybody to help. So we're not really concerned on someone kind of coming in, because we've heard from our insurance brokers, we've heard from the banks, we've heard from the government agencies that they have not seen anyone approach the solution the way we're doing it. And that's just a pat on our back when we get that statement from people. Some of the direct comparisons to other products out on the market right now that have a lot of traction. Hip Hop, Hop, Skip, and Drive, and Zoom, they definitely reached the market first, operating out of California, I believe Texas. They go after affluent neighborhoods. They're going after parents that can afford more than an Uber ride to get their child from one place to another. That's great for them. That's great for those families that have that option. We don't want to interrupt that. We're not going after that market. What we're looking for is something that every family can use. Our average cost is about $10 for a 5-mile trip. And we're looking to be flexible. We're not looking to lock anyone in. Everyone out there knows revenue models of subscriptions and charging fees for sign up and charging fees for cancellations. It's a definite way to grow your bottom line, but it's not a way to get parents' interest into the platform. So we want to keep things very simple. We're paying for basically the cost of our software and our operations and our insurance. And outside of that, we're not actually edging to make a big profit at the beginning. What we want to do is spread the service around and make sure enough people know about it and can afford it and find ways to improve on it. And our national presence is something that we're very proud of as well. Everything we've got, from the background check to the service to the meetups, nothing requires us to have a brick and mortar or any training facilities or any type of service in that state or area. We can do everything, remotely from the cloud, set up some customer service agents and be able to absorb any market after we do our marketing campaigns there. We talked about the competitive environment, players that are in the market that are not a threat. And the leading one would be, your famous mobile apps, but they do not touch children. We talked about that earlier. There are the expensive hired drivers where other people can find a professional driver to do their rides. I've heard some astronomical prices in New York City. We don't want to touch that. For those families that are comfortable with that, that's fine. It's not bringing the family community together. It's not, cleaner for the environment or anything like that. And I think our mission is different from that. We've also got the scheduled van services. I'm not sure how it is in other states, but in Chicago, they're operating a lot more since the pandemic, since you don't have as many parents leaving the house to drive. And we don't want to necessarily take business away from them, but we do want to show that in case your child is not going to the same location as that van contract says, in case your child is split custody between mom and dad, in case they are changing their after school schedule because a new activity is starting or something is ending, or now they want to try something else, we do have that flexibility within Piggyback to absorb that change. We talk about the revenue model. Downloading the product is free. Once it's a downloadable app, right now it's a website. The matching is free. The only thing the members are paying for is the cost. We absorb the fee of the background check. We are not charging people just to be on the platform. If you do match with someone and you decide to start your rides, the member that's requesting the ride is going to pay, and the member that is doing the ride, once the ride is executed, the member that's performing the ride, that's driving, is going to earn piggyback points, which is the credit for our system. So that revenue model, what it yields, like I mentioned, is a little profit for each of those rides, but those little profits, if we can scale, are really going to add up. This model is assuming that we get 10% of all students in charter schools. If we get 10% of families that have athletes for kids, if we get 10% of the magnet schools, it's too far for school buses to drive, and then 40% of the YMCA youth. These are the numbers that we're looking at in a year. This will be our serviceable, obtainable market. We also added on there the HR department benefits. That's something that we're looking at in the second phase. Once we've gone B2C and talked to parents to get them to sign up for these first couple of years, we do plan on approaching some of the larger employers and adding piggyback services, piggyback points, piggyback credits as a potential HR benefit to parents that work there. So the same way you can get your dental, your vision, we want to be able to say, have the parents sign up and they get 50 piggyback points a month sponsored by the company as a perk for working there. So just another thing that we're working at from a holistic macro level of making parenting life a little bit easier. There's a bunch of reports out there. We're kind of snagging numbers every couple of months as they update them, but the global carpooling market is expected to reach 21 billion by 2030. And much of that is not coming from youth carpool. That's just looking at adults sharing rides to work, to sporting events, to anything like that, because cost of a single ride is getting up there. So we plan on riding that wave as more people become familiar with scheduling things from their cell phone and using technology to get around. The margins for the profits, we put this together. The format of this pitch is set to go to venture capital. We actually got some great guidance. I mentioned we've been around the block. We've got some great mentoring and guidance on how to structure and what the numbers are that they're going to want to see. And we put this together to show the first couple of years we are in the negative in the net income. But then after 3 years with our model here, we're going to be profitable and pretty profitable after that. So we do have at the end of this crowdfunding raise, which will be about 400,000 on WeFunder. Later this year, we are looking for a venture raise with institutional money of about $5 million to stretch us out until we're profitable. So that's what this model here takes in. And we can speak to this in the questions if anybody has them. Next up would be our planned exit. So our plan is to be fully operational by the middle of this year. And that includes a partnership that we have with the YMCA here in Chicago. There are 14 locations that have 28,000 parents to them. And the Y has been working with us over the last year at announcing that they are going to be an official partner with us, and we'll be their transportation, preferred transportation method for their parents. So they're going to use their marketing team and their marketing efforts to reach out to their existing parents and their potential parents and pretty much, shower them with Piggyback information when you register for the YMCA for a class, swimming, karate, anything, taekwondo, you're going to be redirected to the Piggyback site for transportation. I will be on site at a number of these Ys starting on their summer camps with my booth, with my t-shirt swag, and try to get people to sign up and explain to them education sessions similar to what I'm doing here, and just sort of walk them through what we're proposing. So with that rollout, with the Y, and it's going public, we're inviting public parents to sign up by August of this year. We do plan on being profitable by 2026 and acquired by 2030, all right? So what we're looking to do now is completing our new web platform. That should be done by later in February, releasing our mobile app, which we're aiming for April, May-ish at this point, preparing for the launch with the YMCA, and also executing our marketing strategy to spread to different states outside of Chicago and Illinois. I have a few personal priorities I've got right now. I was just invited to do a TED Talk here in Chicago, and that will be at the end of February. So I've been preparing that. It's going to talk a little bit about Piggyback, but also a piece of just my journey to get here and spread the story of networking. And I haven't put that on the slide deck yet, but that needs to be in here as well. So that is the pitch.
Wonderful. You guys have been busy in a year. Good busy. Very good. Go ahead, everyone, and please put your questions in the Q&A that you may have. I wanted to talk a little bit while they're doing that. I wanted to ask the question. I love the addition of the HR relationships. And, there are a lot of the HR companies use larger companies that provide those services. Like there's a company called PerkSpot, and they provide all of the perks that include all of those benefits. So definitely don't look at companies like that too, that are typically going in, having services like yours under their umbrella. But I love that addition because especially if you can get payroll deduction, parents will love the convenience of that.
Yep, definitely. My wife was just going through, they just got a new card for, there's one card for parking if you have to pay for parking when you get to work. There's another card if you have to take the metro train or like a rail system. And those little, $70 here, $100 there, that stuff adds up when you deal with corporation and perks. So we want to be in that conversation.
Yeah, very, very good. And I know that you had asked me before to kind of put a call out to the community if there were anyone that had school relationships, right? Or relationships with sporting organizations. Those are the kind of partnerships that you're looking to make as well. So from a community standpoint, guys, as you're, kind of thinking through the campaign tonight, if you have any of those relationships that you can share, please don't hesitate to either drop your contact information, or we'll have the gentleman drop theirs so that you can connect and we can help them build that network even broader.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a kind of a personal story for how we got started as well. When I was in junior high, my coach at the football team, he saw that I was getting to school to practice late because I was taking the bus from home after I got home or from school. He talked to my parents about me getting to school to practice earlier. And he said, is there any way we can get him here on time? Because we want him to be a captain this year. And they said, we're working, we don't have anything to do to get him there. The coach realized he lived near us and he said, can I pick him up and take him to practice? So that little gesture of him taking me to practice got me there on time, my first taste of being a captain, of leadership, and ended up playing through college. And that was just a little, gesture from someone to say, I can help out. And now as a parent, as an adult, as a solution provider myself, I'm looking back on that little, gesture there. And it's like, that was huge.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Definitely. I think I shared the last time as a single parent, who my son was very active. I mean, he played football, basketball, wrestling, karate. I mean, he did all the things, right? And you have to get there. And that was not always easy. Luckily, there were other parents who were so gracious to pick him up and drop him off, or, if they saw us standing at the bus stop, right, they would drive up and be like, hey, where you live?
Yeah.
Come, that happened to us many a times in the cold. I was grateful for that. And so this service is definitely something that families, and I love that you said you're targeting all demographics of families, right? Because we're all in that same category, right?
Mhm.
And so I love that you're not focusing on the elite, right? Or even just the lower income, because there's
Yeah.
everybody in between that have the same needs and desires. So I love that you
Indeed.
guys are thinking about that. The other question, and don't forget, guys, put your questions in the Q&A, please, so we don't lose sight of them. I want to lead with what you kind of ended with, the exit, right? So you're very clear about your exit. Typically we don't see and be acquired, right? in the presentation. Typically we have to ask that question and then the founders talk about it. Why acquisition, right? The question always comes up, but these amazing Black companies, we build these empires and then we sell them. And there's always, controversy and opinions that go both ways on what they think about that. So tell me why you are intentional about the road to acquisition.
Sure. So the building block aspect of this, it's scary what we get into conversations with people about. People want to turn Piggyback into a tutoring platform, into something for military families, into something for kids that have medical conditions. All great ideas, but once those conversations are being had, our job is sort of like done. We've gotten it to the point where now it's a conversation, and I don't think my genius is needed to get it to spawn out to those other areas. But I think the building up, making sure it's being built with the foundation to become all of those things is sort of the drive that we have. I don't want to hang around as long as Zuckerberg did and try to, keep Facebook pure. It's like, it's going to become its own thing. As long as we get it elevated to the point where it's going to be beneficial and it can spawn off into these other companies and services, then I think we're good. And we've also got some other things up our sleeves that we want to have take off as well.
Very good. Thank you for that. Beulah said, my niece is the president of a Tennessee Teachers Education Association. It services the 95 counties in Tennessee. So very good. So Beulah, I would love for you to either share your information or we can get the guys to share theirs so that you guys can connect. That would be an amazing connection for them.
Thank you, Beulah. That's beautiful.
Patrice says, I'm guessing you're already contacting all of the endpoints your current customers are traveling to effectively build your customer base.
So yeah, one thing that I didn't put into the presentation, the endpoints are also part of our customer base. We actually have a profit sharing program where we take a portion of the rides that originated or ended from that endpoint, and we donate money to those organizations. If it's a school, if it's a nonprofit, if it's a booster club for the school, the YMCA, we're actually sharing some of the profits with them to encourage them to say, hey, look, this is not just to raise profits, this is to help the program out. We're going to let the parents know. That's kind of our answer where people say, what happens if parents meet on a platform and they don't want to use it? It's like, that's fine, but we just want to show that we're down supporting the community. So we get a lot of support from that. We get a lot of people that want to help grow the attendance. We were building this mid-COVID. So as people were forced to stay in their house, a lot of places didn't survive. My girls were in a ballet studio that made it 25 years, and they just celebrated 25 when COVID hit, and they weren't able to come back financially. So we know there's a lot of places out there that would love to increase or at least keep steady their enrollment, and we're going to say, all right, we want to help you out. For helping us out, your parents, we're going to help you guys out. So that's one of the ways we want to do it. So those endpoints are definitely important. We've been shoe salesmen, walking door to door, handing out flyers, letting them know about the service, trying to reach as many people as possible. One thing that we always hear is who's using it already? Who's using it already? And that's where this partnership with the YMCA becomes huge. We've structured sort of a relaunch so that the YMCA will be the only operating rides that we have starting in June. And then the public is going to be invited to join in what the YMCA has been doing. So creating that sense of elite and privileged rides that the YMCA families have. Now the public can get on it in August when school gets back in session. And hopefully that creates some of a this is who's been using it kind of feel.
Very good. Let's talk about the safety component. I'm sure that's one of the questions that you often get as well is your presentation said as young as 3 months old.
Yep.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the from 3 months to what's the oldest age?
18.
18.
Okay.
So from 3 months to 18, I'm entrusting Piggyback Network in my community of parents with my baby, right? Because even at 18, my baby's 35, he's still my baby, right? So we're entrusting you with our babies.
Sure.
How does that work? Are there background checks? Where are the security parameters at?
Sure. So just to be able to match with someone, a rider, both Piggyback members sign up for free. But as soon as a Piggyback member says, I want to offer my drive, before you're able to offer to drive, we're going to send you through a national background check, criminal background check, county level background check, a motor vehicle check, and then also sexual registry for all 50 states, just to make sure we do our due diligence. It's the same level of scrutiny to become a public teacher in Chicago. The same, checks against, any arrest, any felonies, any drug use. Definitely we're looking at your driver history. If you're speeding, if you've got DUIs, we want to make sure we've done our part to a point. And then that last check is, are you comfortable with the partner? We're making sure there's a sit down face to face so that you can get a vibe. Do they look you in the eye? Do the body language feel right? Is there anything awkward when you bring the kid in the room? Is the kid comfortable with them? All of these different things that you would want to screen someone with that's coming into your home and into your space. We're making sure that that's there. And then we've got a feedback system. Let us know, don't necessarily narc on every little thing that happens, but if your kid says the ride was quiet, we didn't do much talking. If your kid says they were speeding, if your kid says they were distracted on their phone or they use profanity, let us know so that we can properly talk to the person and if necessary, remove them from the service, because this represents the brand of Piggyback. Every little driver can, impact how the reputation of the company looks. So we have our points drawn up and our agreement that says, this number of violations will get this. And then if you do this many times, we could potentially remove you from service. We just want to make sure you recognize that you're not just driving someone's McDonald's to their house like this is a child. And we want to make sure that it's definitely safe. Oh,
Okay.
and also we've gone through the ringer to get ourselves corporate auto insurance. So should the worst happen, we are covered. The drivers are covered. The passengers are covered. The uninsured that might get into an accident are covered. We're making sure that we're covering that. And that's actually our biggest cost because it doesn't exist right now. We're literally creating our own insurance coverage package and we don't have any leverage to argue with it yet. And we're just like, okay, we'll eat that price. But after a year, after 2 years of the data and having the actuals of what happened, any payouts, any incidents, we take that back to the insurance cover. We say, okay, let's renegotiate. This is after a year of operations. Let's talk about more realistic numbers at that point.
Very good. Anonymous had a question about insurance too. I want to make sure we covered all of that. What characteristics for risk had your insurance brokers highlighted before deciding the policy and premium for Piggyback?
So the risk was these policies don't exist. Insurers, they go and look to see, okay, what exists and what can we put together, mix and match. Nobody touches kids for pay. It's non-existent. We've got so many no's. We had to go across the pond to London. They finally gave us a quote. The quote was ridiculous. We went back to our broker. We're like, we're a startup. There's no way that can work. They were able to get us to adjust our starting numbers and our mileage and target this. We really had to play with the numbers just to be able to get an initial package. So we're very sure that risk at this point is kind of pulled out the air. They need to see how these first numbers do. And then after a couple of months or years with the service that we have, they'll be able to say, all right, in a given span, piggyback drivers, because they're going to school, in school zones, carrying their own child and someone else's child, these are the number of incidents. So we'll actually write out the risk profile as we execute. And until we get there, we're stuck paying the premiums that are offered to us.
Okay. And the second part of Anonymous's question said, you mentioned other competitors were staying clear. Why do you feel confident approaching with your loss coverage behind or ahead of you? Yeah, let me make sure I understand that question as well. So as you mentioned, other competitors were staying clear. Why do you feel confident approaching with your loss coverage behind / ahead of you? Anonymous, can you clarify? Did you get that? Okay, you got
that. Okay, so our competitors actually state that they are ensuring that insurance is available. But if you read their fine print, they actually are not insuring the driver once the driver picks up a child. We are confident because we've taken the steps to go after a program of insurance that will actually cover our driver and cover the child and cover the cost of the accident if that happens. So I think Ish may have mentioned it. It's taken us 1.5 years. So a part of that 1.5 years has been the growth of the organization. Other companies are focused on doing the 40. Our competitors basically are saying, we want to create jobs by saying, we will give you $40 an hour to drive these kids. And they know that the demand is out there because parents don't have any other choice. Parents aren't actually concerned about the risk involved because they put their kids in Uber or they put their kids in Hop, Skip, Drive or Zoom or wherever. But we are concerned about the risk because we know that our community, if an accident were to happen, could be damaging to your entire credit history, your financial portfolio, and your lifestyle in general. And so we are heavily invested in ensuring that we actually assume the liability. That language, though, around assuming liability also allows us to work with the school districts directly so that the school district will promote Piggyback Network to the parent. Because busing carries its own type of liability, but you'll find that if your child gets injured on a bus, you signed a waiver that said too bad. We didn't want anyone to have to sign a waiver to say too bad. And so that's why we're confident, because we are actively trying to make this and keep this as equitable as possible across the board.
Very good. Thank you for that. I have another question about the process. And so part of the process is the parents meet each other, right? The two parties meet each other. What prevents them from bypassing Piggyback Network? Like, you introduce them, now I got them over for tea and crumpets. What's to prevent us from having our little side deal and boxing you out? Yeah,
and when we get that question, it's definitely something that we can't prevent 100%. What I relate to when I hear that, we used to use a cleaning service, and every 2 Saturdays, somebody would come out and clean the house. And we got really attached to this one guy. He was great cleaning the house. He was fast. He was really, courteous to the kids. So he slid us a card one day. It was like, I do this on the side, by the way. So we looked at his pricing on the side, and it was a lot cheaper than going through the service. So we started using him on the side. His schedule changed. He disappeared on us. He wasn't there on time anymore. We became I just got a job, so I can't take you guys. We were a side job for him at this point. And then eventually he stopped coming altogether, and we found ourselves going back to the service to look to see who they had. That's a horror show if you're dealing with your child. But what we've aimed for is, if we've connected parents to another parent and they trust that parent and they're going to give them rides, part of the job is accomplished. You met somebody at least through Piggyback. Yes, you're not, going to make us, profitable. There's not going to be revenue generated, but we hope that the next time there's a change to your schedule, If there's a new season, if there's a new school, you're going to come back to Piggyback and try to find someone else. And it's, that's the most we can hope for. In the long run, we do plan on having partnerships with retailers, large scale retailers, the Disney's, the Southwest Airlines, a lot of places where parents spend money, and really make it incentive based that you want to become that parent that's driven 10 rides a month. You want to become that parent that's had 3 solid months of, 5 rides each, because we're going to put those little levels of perks. I just went to Disney for the first time in my life over Thanksgiving. I don't know how families do it every year, but we would love to be able to sponsor your trip down to Orlando and be able to say, because you're a great carpooling parent, you get these perks for your family. So we're trying to meet parents where they are, where they spend money, where their budget is, and say, you're helping us out, so let's help you out, and get some corporate sponsors to look at it the same way. And we can say, hey, we've got, 500,000 parents in Orlando that are using our service. This is direct marketing if you want to go through us. So kind of put those back channels in there to try to help incentivize the larger firms to incentivize us.
Very good. Thank you for that. Patrice says, how many people does it currently take to run Piggyback?
To run Piggyback? You're probably looking at them. We are definitely, we're cautious right now in keeping our contractor base. We haven't hired a third hire yet. Our late 2023 schedule does have us investing in a full-time marketing team, sales team, some customer service reps to make sure that that onslaught of customers that comes from the YMCA and the public launch are maintained and taken care of while we're still out sales and growing the company. We're probably looking at growing to about 15 by the end of this year if everything kind of launches on schedule.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
So,
I'll add one part because we'll probably need to discuss this. So it's a great question. When we start our national launch, right, Ish has been able to manage the relationship in Chicago, and I've been able to manage the relationship in Austin. But when we go national, or even when we just start going to different cities, we know that we're going to need brand ambassadors and parent liaisons. We've been talking through the idea that, the football mom would be our parent liaison and would do that as a volunteer experience, potentially. But if we really want them to carry the banner for Piggyback Network, we will have to incentivize them, likely financially, and they will then become employees. So the question on what does it look like to operate Piggyback Network, we've run a lean ship, but in order to scale Piggyback Network, we will probably need someone, in every district, for example. And so the scale of the organization does get fairly large pretty quickly once we trigger success. And then I'll just always say, although we're talking about the US, I'm immediately ready for international conversations, because I know that there's an opportunity in Kenya. I know that there's an opportunity in Ghana. I know there's an opportunity in Costa Rica, Mexico, and Colombia. And we have relationships there. And that's like countrywide. We're not even talking about the cities in these countries. So the number gets big pretty fast, but for right now, it's just a handful of us.
very good. So this is an opportunity for all of our members to update your information in the professional directory, because at some point these guys may call and say, hey, we're at that point of scaling. We want to hire some brand ambassadors, who you got? And so we'll go right to that professional directory to try to seek you out. So this is a great opportunity. Bernard says, what happens if the child gets out of the car? I feel like this is one of those math questions. Like, what happens when the train leaves the train station? Bernard says, what happens if the child gets out of the car and goes elsewhere than where the ride share is to go? How would that be dealt with on the safety level?
So you know how when you talk to a doctor, the doctor's going to give you the worst possible stories that's ever happened. You talk to a police officer, they're going to give you the worst stories. We've learned from talking to parents, there are some shady drivers out here. We had one guy ask, so the kid's not just going to be like thrown out on the corner because the light just turned red, right? And I was like,
Where
what
they
are
do
you
that
doing?
at?
I'm
Right.
like, lay on my shoulder. Who hurt you? Like, why? These are parents. This is my responsibility, is to get this child to where we're supposed to go to. There is no, once the dot says I'm here, I'm going to throw them out. Like, this is typically, you got someone on text, you're taking a picture saying, we've arrived, I'll wait for you to come outside. We're treating people like human beings here because we're expecting, you would expect the same thing of your child. And that's one of the reasons from the beginning, we did not want the hired driver model. At the time we were building this up, every other month there was a new rollout. There was Uber Eats, there was DoorDash, all these places where it's like, you can get paid to drive, you can get paid to drive. And we had a lot of people telling us, like, you're going to have to compete with them. And I said, no, those are hired drivers. We want parents that don't mind driving. There's a difference. There's a different level of patience, expectation. You're going to watch that child walk all the way into their grandmother's arm. You're not going to just say, well, my job's delivered. I took a picture of, I think it was UPS. They put a box and took my floor mat and put the floor mat on top of the box, and then took a picture of it and was like, delivered. And I'm like, that's not this. This is a parent.
Was that supposed to camouflage the box?
Somebody in the training video said, make sure you cover it. But this is not, I learned what I'm doing from a training video. This is, I am a parent. I know what a logical drop-off pickup looks like. And if there is an issue where someone doesn't get dropped off all the way, or the kid was ever scared, abandoned, definitely let us know. That driver needs to get dealt with, because that's just not fair on any level.
Very good. Anonymous says, is a van service acceptable?
As a driver?
Yeah, so I guess if I'm a parent, can I have, and maybe this is not an anonymous question, so you may want to clarify your question, Anonymous, but it makes me think, if I'm a parent with a van, can I be responsible for multiple children?
So we've had that happen. We had a woman sign up, and we always ask for the car registration. We always ask for, because we want to make sure the car is registered in the state. The car that she was registering was let's say a 9-passenger van or something like that. And she was excited. She's like, I can do my background check immediately. Let me know when I can start driving and what's my route. And I said, hold on. This isn't a hired van service. If we're gonna give you a route, you're gonna tell us where you're already driving and how many seats you have available, and we're gonna match the parents that are requesting to that. And she said, I don't drive. And I said, okay, the service is for someone who's got a child that needs to get from point A to point B. If you just bought a van to drive these kids, then this isn't for you. There are services out there that do that, but this isn't for you. If you happen to own a van and you're driving your child from home to school, and you say, I've got 7 available seats, we can use you to put up to 7 kids in there. If those parents are cool with them riding in the van, they're going to be paying piggyback rates. You're going to be earning piggyback points, but it has to be along the route you're already driving. We're not going to tell you, here's your route. It starts here, go here, go here, go here, go here, and come here.
Very good. Patrice says, does the insurance cover more than automobile accidents?
We have liability insurance, if that's what they're asking. That's separate than auto coverage. I'm not sure if that's the question.
Yeah, I think our insurance also covers sexual assault, right? So we are covering. So this record. Okay, without going into the long details, right? The reason insurance is so hard is because we have to insure the worst stories.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to insure in case of an accident where a child goes out of the window. And we have to insure in the case where a child is abducted. And we have to insure in the case where a child is sexually molested. So we can't cover our eyes or pretend like that doesn't happen in the communities. And so the reason that the insurance is so expensive is not because we're concerned about car accidents, because those would be low. For the most part, car accidents during school are low speed incidents. Our insurance is a function of society. And so that's why, as Dish mentioned, it's fairly expensive. But we want to make sure that we have that coverage because it will give the most confidence to not only the parents, but to the organizations that the parents trust, like your school district, your YMCA, your local soccer organization, for example, because we plan on working with the larger organizations to market to the parent so that those parents can then get their kids to the places where they need to go.
And a lot of our initial panels of parents, we had attorneys in there who were parents, and they said this is going nowhere until you get coverage. Like they thought of all of the possible things, anything that they've dealt with where the lack of insurance, stopped the talks right there. So we made sure we were getting that coverage and making sure we take take on that expense up front, because it's going to, in the long run, definitely spell out that trust factor for the organization.
Very good. Patrice, thank you for asking that question. And Donald, thank you for the transparency in that answer. Along that same lines, will cameras be required in the vehicles?
So we've heard questions like that from different parents. Statewide, the laws are different over if you can record within the car. We're gonna leave that up to the parents at a later date if they want to have any type of add-on protection. You go through the issue of it's the driver's car. So if it's the driver's device, does that feed go to the requesting family? We get into data privacy, things like that. We'll probably have the ability to tackle that as we get bigger, but rolling out initially, we're not doing any type of recording, any type of cameras, anything like that.
Very good. Anonymous says, your children, so Ish, this is for you. Your children have a 17-mile commute. What does that cost look like for one full week of school attendance on Piggyback's network?
So if I was to send my daughter to her school 17 miles away, the current price, I believe, is about $12 for each ride. So if I was to pay $24 a day, $124 a week, that means I don't have to drive.
And you save gas too. Yeah, right.
Gladly get my sleep back for $124 a week. But I happen to be driving that way to go to work anyway and dropping off my wife and my other daughter. So it makes sense to still do it. But the pricing of it, we definitely wanted to give that sense of, is this worth getting your hour back, your half hour back, and just knowing that the child's in good hands.
From a pricing perspective, can you mention the offset of requesting a ride but then earning points by driving?
So when I said if I was to send my child every day, it'd be 125. The way the system is set up, if I'm going to drive someone else's child, I'm going to earn points for Piggyback. So in an ideal situation, our drivers are also sending their children, but the drivers, when they drive, they earn points for the drive, and then they can turn around and take those points they've earned and use them to send their kids so they can actually net zero. So in my scenario, if it costs me 12 points to send my daughter, I'll probably be earning about 6 points if I drive the drive myself. So if I drive 3 days a week, it's possible I could send my daughter the other 2 days a week and not have to pay anything.
Very good. Very, very good.
That's rough math. So if anybody's out there going to the website and checking, I'm tired. It's been a long week.
So Anonymous says, do you all use your own service?
I was my first customer, yes. So first with driving, I was driving around all day. And when we first launched August of last year, one of the schools that my daughter attends, I was the LSC chair, and I put this note out there. I said, hey, you guys, I've got this carpooling service. I know we send around this spreadsheet every year, but sign up for Piggyback. It's definitely going to save some time. There was a mom who she didn't live near me, but her son was coming into 8th grade, and she was taking the train from their apartment to the school, riding for about 40 minutes. She would stay at the school. There was a Target attached to the school. She would stay at Target until the end of the day, and then she would come home with the boy because she didn't trust him on the train.
Hmm.
She emailed me, she signed up, she emailed me, she called, she said, do you have a match for me yet? Do you have a match for me yet? I said, I don't have a match. But when she told me what her story was, I said, I'll drive the kid home if that's what you're doing with your day. So when school got out, I took my daughter, we took this boy, we drove him home, 30 minutes out of my way, came back and drove my daughter home. I thought it would last for a couple of weeks. I became their piggyback driver for 5 months until he had an entrance exam. He was in 8th grade, so he was taking a test to get into a selective enrollment high school here in Chicago. The reason she wanted him home early is because he was too tired when he got home to study. So me being the driver for him made him get home early enough so that he could study. He ended up getting a perfect score on the entrance exam and was able to pick the high school he wanted to go to. So she was paying $7 for the ride. That $7 each day to get her son home on time meant that he had the pick of his high school. So when we look at, and she was able to get a part-time job. She was able to do so much with her time because now she's not catering to him during the day. So I've been the requester. I've had foot surgery myself, and we have a neighbor that lives 3 blocks from us that our girls go to the same school. Without shame, I said, hey, can you get my girls until I'm off these crutches? And she was like, yes. She had a baby. That same woman had a baby when she was on maternity leave. My wife and I drove for her. So yes, we definitely use the service, see the value in it. You know, it's everyday life for a parent. I'm getting my brakes done tomorrow. I need somebody to take my kids tomorrow. It happens.
Wonderful. So that leads me to another question. How far in advance do you have to schedule, right? Because the brakes just went out today. So now you've got to find somebody to do that. If something like that happens to one of the customers, do they already have the relationships in place that they can have that level of turnaround?
Right. So our sweet spot is let the parent know within 48 hours that you're going to need to make the request within 48 hours. As we become fully operational, we'll probably put some type of a financial penalty for doing a late request. And if the person accepts it, maybe give them a bump for taking a late request, because we know stuff happens. But we try to get it so that it's a 2-day turnaround, 48-hour notice before the driver is able to make to approve the request or not. And sometimes it's the driver who can make the request. We've also made it 2-way. So it doesn't have to be the requester that says, hey, can you take my kid on Thursday? We can have somebody say, hey, I didn't realize I was driving, but I'm driving on Thursday. Does anyone need that ride that we matched on? So it might be you weren't even thinking about it, but now somebody's saying, knock, knock, hey, Tawana, do you need me to take your son? And you could be like, yeah, that's a free day now. So we make it so that the communication goes both ways.
Very, very good. Jesse said, would points earned be considered as revenue as per IRS taxable income?
Nope, we do not allow them to cash out. So there is no cashing out of points. You can only use it within our system to get your rides.
Very good.
No one's getting paid. There's no contracting. There's no employee system, anything like that.
Rain says, hello, Ish and Donald. Good to
see Ray, what's up, Ray? That's my friend.
She said, I saw that in one of the slides that you expect the business will operate at a loss for the first couple of years. Can you elaborate on how we would overcome those losses over time?
So yes, those losses are once we become profitable once we get revenue going in Chicago and have those success stories and have the marketing really, we definitely plan on marketing out to other regions. And as we start hitting those other regions, we don't plan on that revenue to be immediate. So we're sort of operating behind the checkered flag and just saying, let's send our resources there. Let's set up marketing, do a blitz of sponsorship, similar to what I did in Chicago over the last few months. Since September, we've been sponsoring and popping up at a lot of different places where parents frequent. We would do a similar blitz of those regions in anticipation of getting the word spread, doing commercial spots, finding out where the parents get their advertising from, and really spending to expand. And as that expansion becomes profitable, moving on to other regions and growing the salespeople that Donald mentioned before. So we have our expansion plan laid out so that every city we hit, every state we hit eventually becomes its own revenue generating subculture, but we've expanded and spending more money to get out in other cultures while it happens. So that overall net negative is offset of we've marketed to the people, but they haven't started signing up yet. And we'll set the operating dates based on when we think we'd be at maximum sort of capacity and not let them operate before they have enough drivers signed up. So we can see those wait lists start to grow. We can see the capacity, we can see the match rates in Charlotte are now, at a good rate. And we can start saying, okay, you guys be ready to drive in a month. You've got enough matches. They've contacted each other. They're ready to start scheduling. We'll say, all right, come 1st of April, come 1st of August, you guys are free to start riding. And that's when the revenue will start picking up. So Rain, that's why it's negative in the beginning and then it rolls out. We also have the anticipation that our insurance is going to drop down. Right now, what we're being charged per mile is, like I mentioned, because of that initial rate. They're able to give us whatever they want because we have to take it. We will have more competitive rates once we've got some years under our belt, once we've got some regions that we can say, hey, these are the numbers. This is what we really had to pay out. These are the casualties that we experienced. This is what our premium went to. Let's adjust that, or we're going to go shopping for it elsewhere. So we expect that insurance to drop down and finally hit a point where the revenue has grown. We don't have to do as much marketing. We're now staple in the families, and they can kind of market for us, and we start pulling back on some of that marketing money, and the revenue is picking up at that point.
Very good. So I definitely understand the model. I don't want my next question to be to make you think I don't. I understand the model, but does the car have to be any certain specification? Like, can it be a 1970 hoopty? I mean, I know it's not a car service, right? I know it's a parent rideshare service, but does the car have to be anything special?
So the one thing that we feel is fair is that it's got to be registered with the state. Your registration sometimes goes with your emission. Is it gonna, pass an emissions test? Is it drivable? Do you have any tickets on it? Is it booted? So if it's registered with the state, that's enough for Piggyback. Okay. Similar to the meet and greet, ask to see their car. Make sure you see what your child is going to be riding in. Right. Because there's certain, I can't deal with cigarette smoke. I can't, it bothers me a lot. So if I see that you as a person look good, your kid, everybody looks like it's a good match. My kid vibes with you. But as soon as we step in that cloth car and I see cigarette smoke, it's not going to work. We're not going to be able to work together. So if there is something to the eye that the pair sees as a problem, they can decline it. But as long as the car is registered with the state, then Piggyback says it's okay.
I'll add a handful of comments to that. And actually, a part of the conversation also includes the 3-month-old passenger. Mm-hmm. We want to be as equitable as possible, and we recognize that different communities have access to different resources. So my mom was a childcare provider, and so we know that some people have to be right back to work. Some people get 6 weeks, some people only get 3 weeks, and some people don't get no weeks. And so we don't want to block a family from being able to participate in a carpool solution just because their child is young. But the risk of that transportation is shouldered by the parent, which is why we require that the two drivers, or the two families, the parent requesting the ride and the parent doing the ride, meet one another. In similar fashion is people's cars. We don't want to tell anyone in their community that they cannot participate because of their socioeconomic situation. However, we want the parents and the adults to say, as this mentioned, I'm comfortable with this, or I am not comfortable with this. But in any case, I think what it's important to also recognize is, from a marketplace perspective, we expect everyone to have multiple matches. So it's not like you will only match with one person, and then if you don't match with that person, you don't get to use the platform. If everybody lives in a community and we're all going to the same school, then we'll likely all overlap. And then people get to decide, oh yeah, and then that's where people get to make their restriction choices. I do like them, I do not like them. My child, feels more comfortable with you, let's match. No harm, no foul, right? Even though we match, and we give everybody the opportunity in the platform to approve the match or not approve the match. And so there's extreme flexibility because we know that like people are people, right? And so we've tried to build in the behavior of a community, but using technology.
Very, very good. Patrice says, oh, when we were talking about the time frame, Patrice said a premium, not a penalty for less than 48 hours. She says language matters.
There you go. Premium.
Very good. A premium. That's good. Rain said, will the driver points be able to be used for more than just rides in the future, like maybe with local shops or with future commercial partners?
Yes, so the idea of the partnerships that we mentioned before, some of the perks, some of the larger corporations that we're looking to get to support us, we've got contacts with gasoline companies, airline companies, Starbucks, a lot of these different places that they've sort of given us the lightly dim green light to say, you guys can get in these enough zip codes, then we can definitely work out partnership between you all's point system and our rewards program. So if you're a person that is always going to be doing that drive, you don't have anything to cash it in on as far as sending your child, then your 200 piggyback points might translate to 100 Starbucks dollars or something like that. So you'd be able to cash in on it and stuff that you would have been spending on anyway. That's down the line once we've kind of gotten our weight up a little bit.
Yeah, I'll add too, even though we're talking about, in this case, larger brands, from a community perspective, we also want to ensure that we are incentivizing the behavior such that parents would walk into the door of the local shops as well. That's a little more difficult from a technology perspective, but it's our business and we're solution architects, so we can figure it out. So if there's a community that's like, oh, we always usually go to this local coffee shop, and the local coffee shop is on the way to the school and we already know that, then we would partner with that local coffee shop to ensure that the points can be redeemed there, or, we can give people gift cards.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the networking that we've been doing. The way I know Mr. Rain is some of these entrepreneur networks in Chicago, you've got those very small business owners that own clothing boutiques and own restaurants and own coffee shops. So I was speaking to one of the owners of Sip and Savers, a chain of coffee here in Chicago. I think there's 6 or 7 locations. And I told the owner about our potential partnership with Starbucks. And as I told him about it, he was kind of working on his point system that he has. And I said, I know you personally. I don't have to go contact the CEO of Starbucks. I was like, can we set this up with you? He's like, yeah, I'll get you with my software people and the people that do the website. We can definitely have a correlation of piggyback points to Sip and Saver points. So those local shops where we're promoting business that people see, that there's visibility. So now he's got an incentive to talk about piggyback. I've got an incentive to talk about his coffee place, and just multiply that out to the different restaurants and small businesses that are right here in the communities that service us.
Very, very good. Anonymous says, a point of clarification. If I have 2 or 3 children, I get piggy points for the 2 or 3 children. Who gets the money?
So we are working out exactly how that looks for the multiple children. If you're picking up 2 children from the same site, taking them to the same site, we want to make it make sense for what we charge as the family that's sending the children, as well as who's driving the children. And as we work out our final features on the new website that's going to go live in February, we still got to work out how that pricing is going to look. It'll definitely be equitable. Like we don't want to charge double for 2 kids. We don't want to treat it as nothing because the driver is doing an extra drive and giving up an extra seat that could have belonged to another paying family. So we do have to figure out what that cost look like. We may do some focus groups to kind of see what the parents of multiple children think about when they do that. Good question, though.
Wonderful. Any more questions?
Oh, you know what? Actually, here's one thing I may want to mention, given that we're talking investment and like, how do we make money? So actually, I was just on a call with some federal people, HHS and Department of Transportation and Commerce. And when we explain the business, they think that we should be more aligned with a nonprofit, but they don't fully appreciate how much money we're actually going to make, because they're not thinking about all of the parents, right? People always put a cap on how big you can actually get, but like, we can ready to get big. But here's the reason. Here's the actual reason. When a parent purchases Piggyback Network points, they give us, let's call it $10. When that child gets a ride, what's exchanged is points, not dollars. So we keep the $10.
Right.
When somebody has earned enough points to say, I don't want to exchange these points for a ride, instead I want a gift card, we're not, I mean, okay, right? We're not going to give you your whole $10 back. There's going to be a calculation that says these points are worth this amount of money. And so the conversation of who gets to keep the money, Piggyback Network gets to keep the money. And that's why we can then reinvest into organizations in the community, which will then trigger more parents giving us more money. So I don't want to sound greedy, right? I'm not trying to make it sound like that, but we don't have the gift of cash back at all. And since we're not paying out cash, then we don't have to pay employee insurance and like all these different headaches. And part of that is the reason why Uber is still illegal in a lot of other countries, but they operate anyway. We don't want to follow that path because it's chasing money. But at the same time, the reason that they have to follow that path is because they cannot employ all of these people as employees. And so we've thought through the business model very carefully, which is also why we know we can afford the insurance, because we're not trying to necessarily make a profit on top of individual families. What we're trying to do is invest in the community and unlock opportunity for our children. It just so happens that that's a lucrative experience because transportation is a major challenge. And if we can solve that challenge, then I would say we deserve major dollars.
Well, absolutely. And I love that you did that clarifying point for anybody who missed that, right? Because this is an investor meeting, right? And while some of us will be consumers of Piggyback Network, this is an investor meeting first. And so it definitely makes sense for the potential investors to know how exactly the money is made. And so I'm glad you made that very, very clarifying point. Many of us would have, kind of put that together, but to say it and hear it very plainly is the best way to make sure we don't have any barriers of entry after tonight's session, that everybody is clear. All right.
And I want to, since your audience knows kind of the sequence of how investing works, we don't necessarily say this to everyone, but this will be our last round of crowdfunding because once institutional money comes in, they don't want us doing this anymore.
Right.
So.
Right. Nope.
Not to rush you, but
that's a good, again, investor meeting, right? So that's a good clarifying point. We had the first round was a year ago, almost a year to the, a couple of weeks. I think you did like February.
Yeah, it was February. Yep.
It's like February, the first week in February even. So almost exactly a year. Yep. And that was the first round. This is the second round. And so you've come to the community, right, twice with the opportunity. If we don't get in on this one, I don't want to hear nothing in that in 2030. Hello, handsome. In 2030, when the exit happens that you're predicting, we don't want to hear nothing from anybody, right? Because you did your part. You came to this community and you gave us an opportunity. And that's what we know as members of this community has been our biggest barrier to entry is the lack of opportunity. You've done your part.
Yeah, and we're setting up info sessions, education sessions here in Chicago online, trying to catch as many people that just want to sit and listen. We go through the process of return on investment. We go through the process of what a safe looks like. You know, you guys educated, you've seen it. I know the little cheat sheet questionnaire that you guys have, that there's a lot of value to that because most people, they don't even know that this is possible. They don't even know that the Jobs Act allows individuals without, high net worth to get involved at seed level. We didn't know either. A year ago, we were not, aware of this. So we're taking it upon ourselves to say, as business owners looking for capital, as investors looking to grow wealth, as consumers looking to see which services you should support, we want to encourage as many people to be involved in this as possible because those barriers are gone. We all have one of these, at least one of these, and we can take advantage of this.
Very good. Just giving the community one last time to ask their questions. I have one final question. This is your second round, right? You've now visited us twice. Why the 10K project? So
I think the first guy that referred me to you, Tyrone Jackson, he's got a daughter at my daughter's old daycare. When I told him what I was doing, I was walking around with my flyers to the daycare. He saw it and he asked about, are you guys, I think I sent the email out about our platform seat at the table at the time. And he told me about the group. He said, there's, when you hear investor group, you always think these are people that are out of my league and they toss money around. They have pillow fights with bags full of cash. And he said, it's average everyday people. And he described, the education aspect of it. My mom's a retired teacher. My mother-in-law's a teacher. Educating is the basis of everything that we're doing, making sure people know what's going on. So when I heard the format, when I heard that you guys have repeat every Tuesday, invite people to the pitch, record them, make sure they know that the awareness is there. This fits around people's schedules that are busy. This fits around, it doesn't matter if it's the industry that you like or not. You can meet the founder, get that time with them. And you guys are actually tuning our pitches. You guys make it easier on us because now I know what angle the light hits me at. I know that I can do it this way. I know how to respond when my son walks in and I don't freak out like the dude
right.
kicking his kid to get off the thing. This makes it more relatable for us as founders that we're able to talk to a comfortable audience, that no one out there is scrutinizing and saying, oh, this is trash. There's nowhere I'm investing in this. It makes it easier for us so that when I take the 10X stage at the end of February, this is another notch under my belt of a confident, successful, got my story across. It may not be for everybody, but people were well received. People were asking questions. People were engaged. And if we look at the questions that we got tonight versus the questions we got the first round, night and day. Like a lot of the things that we got from the audience the first time, we put that into the platform. We said, okay, this is something we should consider. Okay, we should do that. Sometimes I was stumped by a question, whereas now it's like, I've heard that before. You guys are smart, but this is my response for that. So you guys are engaged. I love the mission. When we found out what you were doing, we were looking for you before we knew you existed. So I appreciate everything you guys are putting together. I know it's a time commitment. I know not everybody's able to make every one, but we're here for you guys. And, if we get another thing founded, we're going to start with you guys and see if we can do a third thing.
Wonderful. Very good. Donald, did you want to add anything to that, sir?
Actually, I'll add some color. So, because that's what I do. Ish and I actually, so as he mentioned at the top, right? Because we're Princeton grads, that means that we know people that like have all the money.
Mm-hmm.
Long money.
And I remember we were arguing about, we also argue a lot.
Sign of a good founder. Great founders argue.
we were arguing about whether or not we would actually open the investment opportunity to the community versus just telling one of our homies, tell your daddy cut us a check so we can move this forward. Because there is effort, right? Like it
Yeah, we know.
This is not my last event tonight. I'm actually headed.
You know, like
that's why we appreciate this so much, because we know the heavy lift to raise capital this way.
So even right now, like you were saying, we had a call with a buddy just before this one. That guy is a door to like the money.
Did you hear him say they found $5 million?
They found it. Just happened to be they lost it. They just happened to find it. Wow.
These dudes operate different.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. We found 5 million.
Very, very different. And so so without going into too much, it's important for the mission and vision of Piggyback Network to be rooted in equity as a organization. So equitable access to future opportunity also means equitable access to investing, right? And so we purposefully choose the regulation crowdfund option with the $100 minimum. And, you know, I just dropped in the link. We're doing education Zooms. Ish has been doing in-persons, right? Like we want to take the opportunity to educate our community about what investing looks like, but also, and, you know, I'm gonna give myself a little pub, right? Like we're Princeton graduates, you know what I mean? So like, there's no opportunity for us to not be successful with this. So therefore, I plan on being a billionaire like 2030. You know what I mean? Like that's not a thing that's not really gonna happen because we already have the connections where we could plug ourselves into schools in Arizona, Chicago, Austin, Maryland. I was serious about the international schools. I already have a couple contacts there. So like we already ready to be global. So sometimes I can get fiery when I'm like, yo, y'all keep underestimating us. You might want to stop recording. Because, right? We've already
why you don't get the microphone.
Like, here's the thing, right? If you think about what we represent as individuals, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to run into two relatively not egocentric Black males who graduated from Princeton University, played football, and are electrical engineers, and still have wives that love us and kids that are thriving. You know what I mean? Like, so fine. We're excellent at that. Then we've had great careers, right? We actually have a nonprofit that we co-founded. We have property that's all around. I got a couple other companies that are doing a little bit of something. You know what I mean? So like, we can't really say these types of things to people because then they're like, oh, they just hyping themselves up.
Right.
But we are the truth. You know what I'm saying? So like, when I'm like, yo, invest, I'm giving you the thing is, I'm giving you the opportunity to invest, right? And then it's like, oh, I'm investing, and they write back, oh, never mind. I'm like, cool, fine. But just know that I'm providing a service here because my mans in them already told me he gonna cut me $1 million check. But we told him don't do that yet because we want to bring our community up, because when we pop, we want to make sure that our community pops too, instead of it just being a handful of cats that gave us a handful of dollars and then they get all the money. Actually, I'll tell you this. So here's a little game. We have a $3 million safe from our VC accelerator. They gave us 100K. If we do a $100 million exit, they turn that 100K into more than $4 million. If they find out, and so now we got to play a little game, right? If they find out that we are actually going to be mass successful, if we try to run a price round before early part of
February 24,
they can purchase another $400,000 worth of equity at the $3 million stake, knowing that we getting ready to go big.
Right.
And now they, you know what I mean? And they chose us, but there was no risk on their part. They chose two successful Black Princeton engineers who play football and have families. Mm-hmm. So clearly we like are hard workers, dedicated and educated.
Right.
So there's no risk for them, but then they get all the money. So we really are passionate about ensuring that our friends and actual family have access to this same type of experience, because that's where all the money, like when people talk about the wealth gap, okay, cut me off in here in a second. But when people talk about the wealth gap, the reason it won't close is because we don't have access to these types of opportunities.
That's the only reason.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you could take $100,000 and turn it into 4 million because you invested in some dudes that was going to pop anyway. That's not fair. That's just not fair. Mm-hmm. But those are my investors. So like, I love y'all to death.
Love them. We love them. We absolutely love them.
I mean, the words and views expressed by Donald Scott are not the words.
Yeah, cut.
We won't pull that snippet out and put it on the internet.
Edit this. But like for real, and actually we chop it up. Like anybody got to drop, go ahead and drop. But like we chop it up about how, you know, and I'm from Baptist Church. Shout out to Pastor Winston, Living Word Christian Center. But when he gets you ready, right, to give, all of the energy is why giving will give back. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the entire story. That's what we're talking about, right? There has to be some sort of faith in this individual, the same way that there's faith in higher power. But in any case, it's still faith. And the idea is if I give you $1, you're supposed to give me 100%, whatever you're supposed to get. But we talking about 900%. That's at 100 million. We plan on doing billions of dollars. So that's like 40,000% return on investment. Some wild shit, excuse me. But you know what I mean? Like that's life-changing, right? And
yes.
And okay, yes, it's all risk, and you know, we could fail tomorrow. But that's not likely because we actually have an idea that makes sense. We are not trying to profit off of people that requires them to have money to give us, right? So we're not going to have to go up in fees. We talk about this all the time because we just saw Amazon going up in fees.
Going up in fees and mass layoffs.
Disney Plus going up in fees. Everybody's going up in fees. And I've been telling Ish like, yo, this is the name of the game. And he was like, we're not doing that. And I was like, cool, then our financial model needs to be very, very structured so that we don't try to go up in fees on people. But we have these discussions. Like we're thinking about it heavily.
That actually goes back to one of the legit questions about why exit and not IPO. So what we're seeing, we work in tech and we see these mass tech layoffs. People are dropping thousands, people are dropping, you know, whole departments and things like that. As these tech-based companies scale, more money comes in, they get a bigger vision, they got to grow, they got to do this, they got to do that. A lot of them outgrow what their initial mission was, what their initial footprint was. And us coming from the technology industry, when I mentioned we don't want to see Piggyback take that route, we don't. We can keep it simple. We can keep it a basic service for families. If somebody wants to spin off something big, let them start that risk on day one with the new platform out there, but Piggyback stays true to that. And we just want to get it to the point where we elevate it up and see our shareholders meetings looking like us, because that was the intent that we had from the beginning.
Yeah, very good. No, I first of all, Donald, I love this to see the passion. Love it, love it, love it, right? That's what I want to see in an investor. I mean, in a founder that I'm invested in. That's what I want to see. And so thank you for that. You said nothing that wasn't factual, and I think you said everything that needed to be said. So I absolutely love that. Anonymous says, how will you enter other states, countries, and cities?
So we've got a wide network of people that are either in the education industry, parents themselves, people have been displaced for work. And every time someone hits a new neighborhood, they call us. They say, hey, I know you guys got Piggyback in Chicago and Texas right now. We're ready for you here. Let me know when y'all are ready for here. I'll be the voice because my kids are doing this school and this activity. I've got to drive this commute. My spouse is doing this. They're giving us the heads up of where to go. And these are not distant networks. These are people within our cell phone. These are people we chat with regularly. So we've got a number of, we're probably up to about 10 cities, major cities, that we're already focused on taking our efforts to once we get everything cleaned up and operational here in Chicago, tuning that operation in Chicago and getting ourselves ready to sort of lift and move that out to other areas. We know it's a slow process. We know some of these schools are going to take a while. A lot of them just want to see traction. Traction will get us so many doors open from the investor side, from scalable side, from the parents that say, show me one parent that's been using it for this many months. It's like, we got 20 of them. Talk to them. Don't take it from us. I've got stories of how it's helped my life, how I've helped the other kid get his test score, but it's my business. I'm supposed to tell that story. Listen to the people that have no stake in it, that just woke up and said, this is a great service, y'all should do it. And we're not paying them, like, listen to them. So we want to get to that stage, and we've got a handful of cities that are ready to go. And then at some point, the marketing does our work for us. We don't have to step foot into an area because they've heard how it transformed this area, how it transformed this group. We've got national, the YMCA is national, so we're dealing with them at a regional level. We're hoping that the success here in Chicago leads to them promoting us out to some of their other partners, where at that point, when it's YMCA to YMCA, I don't have to set up my tent and my desk and hand out flyers. That's them saying, y'all need to do this. This is the return on this partnership that we've gotten. Parents are happy, they're rated this, more people are enrolled in this. We have more parents that are talking to each other in the waiting room because they know each other now. All these different aspects, we really see a different world for parents and families on the other end of this.
Wonderful. Shanette says, I can't wait to rock my t-shirt. Blessings. I love it. Love it. Love
That's
it.
right. Now I'm watching these live updates. When Donald went on his rant, y'all started investing heavy, but y'all ain't investing when I'm talking.
Hold on.
See that fire?
Donald, you need to take the mic off.
So here's the thing, right? I'm not the CEO. But I was raised in church, and people always did tell me I either needed to be a pastor or a lawyer. And what I learned is that when you tell somebody that, what that means is they have the charisma that draws people in. Mm-hmm. Now I'll say this is like us just being.
I'm gonna tell you what drew us in. When you said my man's in them, that's what drew us in.
Okay. So Ish and I have been homies for years, you know what I mean? So like, so we have been friends for so long that people who don't know us think that we're the same because we have the same resume, but we're actually very different. But our difference, I think, is why we've been able to be friends, because we complement one another. So like, I'm loud, he quiet. So like, if I would have jumped on the joint and just been, people been like, this dude is crazy. But, you know what I mean? We let Ish talk to you about the facts. You know, you see your numbers. It all makes sense. And then your man jumps on the mic and is like, yeah, so show me the money, son.
And this is him. This is naturally him. This is not an act.
I love it. I love everything about it. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Listen, this has been a pleasure for the community. We understand the assignment, right? We know what we're here to do. Do your due diligence first and foremost. I am not a financial planner, so I'm not telling you what to invest in, but what I am telling you to do your due diligence, right? We showed you where to go to do some of that due diligence. This is a product that is up and running and being utilized today. So that's good, right? This is not ideation. This is real life happening, right? More than anything else, you guys know my call to action is always to share the campaign. share it with everyone that you know, share it with every parent that you know, share it, talk about it at the schools when you drop your kids off, right? We want to widen the horizon and allow more eyes to be on this campaign. We're at the front end of it, right? We're in the family and friends round. So we are going to be the initial cheerleaders. We need to be the loudest cheerleaders for this. That's why the guys are here, so that they can get more exposure. More people need to know about this. That parent standing at the bus stop needs to know about this, right? Waiting to bring her child home from karate practice at 9 o'clock at night on a cold winter's day, right? She needs to know about it. Or the dad doing the same thing needs to know about it. And so we need to be the people telling them about it and making sure that this gets out there. And so, that's what the 10K project represents. That's why we're here. I personally love that this is one of the first campaigns. I feel like where the long-term mission is very clear, right? Like we know what these guys are aiming to in 2030. Like we know what that road looks like to them. And obviously there could be twists and turns. They could change their mind. All of those things we know could happen. But it definitely hits different when you hear the vision very clearly, as clear as we saw it this evening. And so as an investor, you get to make a decision based on all of that. And so for me personally, as an investor, not as a financial planner, not as a spokesperson, but as an investor, that mattered to me tonight. And so, I hope all of you took in this information. If you need to listen to the replay again, we'll email it out to all of the members, so all of you will get it in the morning. And feel free to listen to it again. Make sure you understand the presentation fully. Make sure you understand the numbers. Just really follow through. But don't miss the fact that 42 million, I think you said 42 million parents,
42
right?
42 million parents,
42
58%
million.
of American parents. Yep.
58% American in the US. We're not even talking about all those other countries, right? So in the US, we talk about the market, right? Many of us are parents, so we understand this firsthand and understand this problem firsthand. And so just consider all of that when you're sharing this story with all of the people that you know. There's also an opportunity for you to share this with people who need to utilize the service, not just invest in it, right? The part of exposure is not just about those investment dollars, but it is about the customers, the downloads, right? So that when they go to get some of those, that 5 million that somebody found, right? When they go to get that, and the question is asked, how many downloads do you have, or how many connections do you have? That's
social media followers, everything.
Absolutely.
Matters.
All of that matters, right? So we should be also downloading it, right? Downloading the app just to have it. We never know if we're going to need it. I'm not going to need it because my baby's 35, but if he need a ride, we can need another service for that. But
what about my grown kids?
But we need to think about this all around. Even if we're going to be investors, we need to consider, how does it look for us to be consumers? Because all of that makes our investment more popular as well. So just really think about this thing with a 360 view, but understand the assignment tonight is to first and foremost do your due diligence and share the heck out of this campaign link. We've been putting it in the chat. If you need to take a minute and copy it and put it to your desktop or save it in your phone, whatever you need to do, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do, save it so that you can have it, so that you can go back to it and be able to share it. Right. Any final words, gentlemen, from you?
I want to thank you all for giving Donald a platform. I usually try to keep him quiet, but this was the perfect audience for him to be himself. He brought his true self to work today. Thank you.
I love it. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be who I am, because usually I have to dim my shine.
Yeah, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. We tell founders to come this way. We've seen a couple of them on your replays. We know the ecosystem is not as, it's a lot of us out here. It's a lot of us out here, but the word is not out here that there's support, that there's a lead charge that's going on, that it's no barrier to get into this. There's no, $10,000 buy-in. A lot of the people that we talk to, they assume everything is just up there. Everything is just steep to get in. And it's like, seriously, these are everyday people investing their time to learn about things and support things that they find fits their personality and their profile. And that is just, let's just take an effort to do it. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
We appreciate you too. We've got one final question. You know, my commitment is to stay until the last one is asked and answered. Anonymous says, this service sounds wonderful for Georgia, where I live, and my daughter's charter school is 35 minutes one way. Her school invested in a bus service to serve our needs, but I can definitely see the benefit to our community. If that would have not happened, I will check out the information page to see if it fits my portfolio, and can't wait until it hits Georgia. When do you foresee that happening?
So when we first launched last year, August 13th, I flew down to Georgia for a wedding, stayed with my cousin. My cousin told me about her commute. She's just outside of Atlanta. She switched schools so that she has to drive her son to a school. I think she spends 2 hours round trip. Her story, several other stories, the fact that the census in Georgia just for the first time showed that there's more people living in the city of Atlanta than the rural parts of Georgia. All of these different just makeups. Atlanta's definitely on our next marketing trip. And I'm not sure if your Georgia home is close to Atlanta or if it's outside of it, but some of the stuff that we heard about, just the growth, the number of schools, the quality of schools, the number of people moving south with the pandemic behind us, we definitely want to make sure we got a presence in Atlanta among some other places. So Georgia's on our to-do list.
Very good. And the last thing I'm going to say, this just popped into my mind. I was thinking about the Facebook algorithm, and Talisha is going to be posting the what we've named Black Chip clips. She's going to post some of those. We're going to edit this session, and she's going to post some of those. When she posts, for the 40 of us still in here, if you guys can comment, not just like the post, but comment under the post. If you came tonight, like shout out the fact that this was a successful evening, was great information. That's going to make it go to like stay at the top of our kind of, I don't know all the fancy terms, but it's going to make it stay at the top so more people can see it. So, and that's what we want. So let's start doing that intentionally. When those posts are posted, many of you are liking it, which is great, but I don't think the algorithm cares about a like, it cares about the comment. And so we want to be more intentional about how we're sharing this information with the rest of our network as well. Because as you guys know, your members, you get access to this. The general public will see the clips, but they don't see the whole thing. So we want them to see it in the comment trail so that they can then click on the link in our hopes and be able to drill deeper into the campaign page. So that is my other ask of you this evening, if you can do me that favor. I appreciate that. All right, guys, this has been wonderful. Thank you so very much. Don, I know you've got your other meeting to go to. Good luck with that one, brother. Ish, and good luck with that one. And you guys are part of the family, so we'll see you on round 3, because that's going to be a reg. We still eligible for Reg A's and Reg D around here. Some of us.
Oh yeah, if it's up to us, we'll do it. But they already question us about who's on our cap table and all that. Our friends are on our cap table.
That's right, your family. We the aunties and uncles. Don't tell them to worry about us.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys. Good night.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Right back at you, brother. Thank you.